Hello everyone and welcome to the program. I'm Don Arleth and you're watching Flash News. The national vaccination program in Poland is stepping it up to the next level. Starting Monday, children ages 12 and up will be able to receive the Pfizer vaccine. For the time being, this will be done at existing vaccination centers, and in September, they will also be carried out at schools. In addition, starting today, all adults who have been vaccinated can also benefit from the newly issued EU COVID vaccination certificates when traveling abroad.
Vaccination of children aged between 12 and 15 will begin on the 7th of June. They will include more than 2.5 million pupils in Polish schools. We should all be vaccinated because this COVID, it spreads like flu. It will help everyone to develop social resilience. The procedure will be the same as for older people. The product will be given as 2 identical injections at least 3 weeks apart. Children will be vaccinated as all patients before at vaccination centers. The vaccination is administered at population centers and general vaccination centers. After the summer holidays, children will also be able to be vaccinated in schools. From the 2nd week of September, medical questionnaires will be collected, and from the 3rd week of September, vaccination will start. In June, an information campaign will be launched in schools. As one of the first 7 countries, Poland today joins the EU system of COVID certificates. This is an electronic document issued 2 weeks after full vaccination, as well as after passing the disease or receiving a negative test result. When crossing the border, we don't have to take a test every time. It's enough to show the certificate. The document is available for free in the online patient account, and you can also print it out. In 1 month, the system will be valid throughout the European Union. This is a very logical tool to remove restrictions and get out of the pandemic. To date, over 20 million vaccinations have been done in Poland. Over 7 million people are fully vaccinated.
Andrei Pivovarov, a Russian opposition activist, will be sent to a penal colony in Siberia. The man was arrested in St. Petersburg on board a LOT Polish Airlines flight. The Polish authorities are claiming Russian provocation and are investigating the incident under international law. Analysts say it's a show of force ahead of the planned U.S.-Russia summit.
The Polish Airlines plane has already taxied for takeoff at St. Petersburg Airport. On board were passengers flying to Warsaw, including Andrei Pivovarov, an opposition activist once associated with the former oligarch Mikhail Khodorkovsky. I have just got off the plane at Pulkovo. I was supposed to go on holiday. I went through customs. There were no problems. The plane had already started taxiing and suddenly it stopped. Police officers came on board and took me away. Now I am at the FSB station in Pulkovo. The organization Open Russia, in which Pivovarov is active, stressed that these actions are no coincidence. After not one country, not 2 countries, but the whole world discussed Lukashenko's madness in Minsk, doing virtually the same thing in St. Petersburg and stopping Andrei's plane on the runway is the height of madness and disrespect for human rights. The Polish authorities have reacted to the actions of the Russian services. The Polish Airlines plane had already been cleared, and this may be of great significance for the conduct of such operations. PLL LOT will present a report to the ULC, Polish Aviation Authority. The ULC will then analyze what really happened there, also in the context of international aviation law. As analysts point out, 2 identical cases of detention of important oppositionists have been conducted. One took place a week ago when a plane flying to Vilnius was hijacked by Belarusian services, and now a taxiing plane was boarded in St. Petersburg. Both are a signal sent not only to the opponents of Lukashenko and Putin. Perhaps this is a signal that they will not make any concessions. Perhaps it is also a signal to Joe Biden, because on the 16th of June, both politicians are to meet in Geneva, so Putin is showing that he intends to play hardball. Lukashenko plays it brutally too. Today, one of the regime's political prisoners tried to pierce his throat with a pen during the first hearing after many months in custody. Earlier, he shouted that prosecutors were threatening to arrest his entire family if he did not plead guilty.
After 25 years in prison, one of the most dangerous mafiosi, Giovanni Brusca, has been released. He was, among others, behind the assassination attempt on Judge Giovanni Falcone in 2002. The release of the murderer has infuriated the families of the victims.
Giovanni Brusca was due to leave prison next year, but his sentence was reduced for good behavior. This outraged the relatives of his victims. Brusca was notorious for particular cruelty. In the year 1992, he had an explosive device detonated in the car of Judge Falcone, an uncompromising fighter against the mafia. The judge and his wife were killed. A few years later, he brutally killed the 14-year-old son of one of the mafiosi cooperating with the justice system. The World Health Organization has approved for emergency use a vaccine against COVID-19 developed by the Chinese company Sinovac. This is the second specimen from China to get the green light from the WHO. An independent panel of experts recommended the Sinovac vaccine for use in people aged 18 and older. There is no upper age limit. The vaccination requires 2 doses administered 2 to 4 weeks apart. The efficacy of the product is assessed differently. Studies show from 50 to even 83% effectiveness. New Zealand authorities have declared a state of emergency in the South Island. The reason is the flooding caused by heavy rains. More than 500 people were evacuated from the most vulnerable areas in the Canterbury region. Many were waiting for rescue on the roofs of their houses as the water level rose rapidly. 3,000 households were underwater.
This is one of the bloodiest election campaigns in Mexican history. Gangs have murdered 88 candidates in the country's upcoming local elections. They were sentenced to death by drug cartels. Every one of those murdered pledged to fight against drug trafficking.
Mexico's beaches are a dream holiday destination for many, but this charming country has also a dark side. This is a brutal war for power. Gangs in the employ of drug cartels and local criminal groups have murdered 88 candidates in the forthcoming local elections. They want to silence us because they know we stand in their way. I get death threats on the phone. Those who promise to fight drug traffickers become targets. A council candidate in Acapulco, murdered by a shot in the head, was the first victim. Another was a former prosecutor. He was killed while distributing election leaflets. 10 shots were fired at him from a passing car. Alma Barragan wanted to be mayor of Mora León. Her funeral took place a few days ago. It's a game of life and death, a game for power, criminals versus candidates. In this election, it's particularly evident. Guillermo Valencia is running for mayor in the city of Morelia. The drug cartels have already tried to kill him. He wears a bulletproof vest at meetings with voters. He drives an armored car. Every time I say goodbye to loved ones, as if I'm not going to see them again. When I leave home, I don't know if I will ever come back. I'm threatened everywhere. Local elections in Mexico will be held on the 6th of June. Until then, the gangs want to eliminate anyone who can get in the way of their 64 billion a year drug business. Across the country, we do our best to ensure that candidates in the elections are protected. Everyone can count on our help. These are empty promises. According to CIA analysts, up to 1/5 of Mexico is under the control of the cartels. The drug cartels rule a big part of the country. They maintain their power and defend their interests in the way they consider most effective, that is, by murdering candidates. Mexican police say there have been nearly 1,000 attacks on candidates during the months-long campaign.
The mood in Polish industry has never been better. The corresponding index has reached its highest level ever. This means that the exceptionally good business climate in Polish industry continues.
A year ago, due to the outbreak of the pandemic, this office furniture factory in Kielce had to suspend its operations for several weeks. Today, this time seems like a distant memory. Since last autumn until now, we have had a very high number of orders. The orders even exceed our capacity. We have to work extended shifts. On the basis of assessments of managers, the PMI index is published every month. It is an indicator which shows the current situation in the industry, while statistics summarize the past months. The index has reached its highest level in the 20-year history of the survey, which means that the mood in the industry has never been so good. They confirm great mood among entrepreneurs who have a good perception of the economy. The rebound in industry has been underway for several months now. In April, the output of Polish factories rose by a record 44%. This has a direct impact on the labour market. Eurostat data shows that the unemployment rate in Poland has remained at the lowest level in the community. We could definitely use a few more people, but there is a very big problem with candidates when it comes to professionals. The key to economic development is the condition of the infrastructure. In Stalowa Wola, drivers can already use this link between a local industrial zone and the city ring road, which was opened a fortnight ago. The benefit is the diversion of heavy traffic away from the industrial zone of our town. In turn, in less than 3 years, Sandomir's showpiece will be a new bridge over the Vistula. A contract for the reconstruction of the old crossing, which has been closed for 8 years, has just been signed.
The vast majority of Poles plan to spend this year's holidays right here in Poland. Resorts are preparing themselves for a mass siege, and the number of tourists visiting the Missouri Lake District and the Baltic Sea is growing every day. In addition, the long weekend is approaching. There are regions where no vacancies in hotels are available.
Although it's not yet visible, the Warmia-Mazur region is in for a serious tourist onslaught. It all depends on the weather, but there are lots of bookings. We have to maintain the regime of 50% hotel occupancy. Finding a free hotel room for the next long weekend is quite a challenge, especially in tourist destinations. There are 3 times as many bookings as last year and half as many as in 2019. We wanted to return to normality. You can see for yourself how much happiness and joy that brings. As many as 1/3 of Poles plan to spend the long weekend away. Everyone's longing for rest, breathing freely and catching positive energy. The weather by the sea is very good, so we are ready. Poland will stay the most popular holiday destination this summer. It will be chosen by about 75% of the population. This year, mainly Poland. This approach is encouraging for the tourism industry. Cottages and agritourism are back in favor. We are prepared to receive guests. We have a lot of bookings, as always, because we have been in business for several decades and have a base of regular clients. Destinations remain the same. About 30% of clients each go to these 3 so-called main destinations: the mountains, the Masurian lakes and the sea. No wonder, after all, Poland can truly impress. Polish seaside is the best in the world. Gothic buildings, lakes and forests. Iodine to breathe, beautiful beaches, undeveloped unlike Spain and Greece, wild, lots of vegetation, it is beautiful. Beautiful and still not discovered.
The opening of the new Edward Munch Museum in Oslo has been postponed several times. It will finally open its doors to fans of Norway's most famous painter in the fall, but the operation to move the works of art is already underway.
The new Munch Museum was built in the former docks. It is 5 times larger than the previous one. It will house and exhibit what the famous artist bequeathed to the city of Oslo. That includes all his works, household items and correspondence. There was no room for a proper exhibition in the old building. The new one offers more space. The move has just begun. It is an operation of great importance, as great as Edvard Munch's legacy. Saving from destruction, a group of Ukrainian art historians and conservators have set themselves the goal of counting the mosaics adorning the walls of buildings in the entire country. Once the stocktaking is complete, the artists will begin restoration. Today, most of the mosaics are in a desperate condition. In the artist's opinion, they deserve to survive as a symbol of the era in which they were created. Lake Balaton, the largest in Central Europe and the pride of Hungary. Environmentalists warn that it may soon fall victim to its own fame. The beautiful natural setting in which Lake Balaton resides tempts developers. They are clawing at the land around the lake to build flats, hotels, marinas, campsites and anything else that serves profit. The good of nature somehow has to step aside of their projects. The dishes of the future will be made of insects. In May, the European Food Safety Agency approved the use of insect ingredients. A Parisian restaurant has already prepared a menu with dishes prepared of flour made from ground larvae. Properly processed and beautifully garnished, dishes can stimulate the sense of sight. The sense of taste is probably not everyone's cup of juice. The name of this female albino elephant is Kanisa. In the indigenous dialect of the Johannesburg region, it means sunshine. But it's only now that the sun shines upon the life of the 5-month-old animal. A month ago, the elephant got trapped in snares set by poachers. Injured, starved and dehydrated, it was found by farmers and taken to a wildlife rehabilitation center. There, the animal is regaining its strength and making new friends.
And that's all the time we have on the program. Thank you for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Good night.